Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Franchise Hockey Manager 8 playthrough of the New York Islanders. We are at the opening night of the 2023 to 2024 season. Thanks so much for joining us. A couple of changes since our last episode to highlight people that we made between the end of training camp and the start of this season. Made two changes, picked up two players on waivers. Brian Dumoulin, the veteran defenseman, is now an Islander after being cut by Chicago. And Jake Ottinger, the young goalie, is going to take over as our backup goalie after he was also cut. So to make room for them, we demoted Robin Salo to Bridgeport, and we cut Jacob Skarek, tried to demote him to Bridgeport, but he was actually picked up by the Capitals. So the team looks slightly different as we head into the season. You can see Sorokin and Ottinger happy with our goalies. Dumoulin now on the defense line with a lot of familiar names at this point. And then a couple of rookies on the roster. Matthew Savoy, our number 2 pick in the entire draft back in the 2022 entry draft, is now an NHL player. You can see he spent last season in Winnipeg after we drafted him, was not quite as proficient as he was the season before, but believe that he is ready, and we are investing in youth. And then also Simon Holmstrom, who did play 6 games with us last season, is on the NHL roster as we start the year. Our salary is pretty close to the cap. We've only got about $700,000 in space after the moves to add Ottinger and Dumoulin. But we're happy with how the roster looks. The goal certainly is to be in the playoff hunt and hopefully get back into the playoffs this year. Season objective is the playoff race. You can see that fan happiness is a little better thanks to the new season optimism, the addition of Ottinger, and then we also picked Matteo Rotundi in the first round. He's still going to be in the Quebec Juniors for us for at least another season, but looking forward to hopefully having him contribute to the team down the road as a young defenseman. So we are off and going. The goal is certainly to get into the playoffs and hopefully give the fans something to cheer about. Hopefully we can finish the season with a somewhat higher fan happiness rating than we have right now. Well, we're through the first month of the season, and it's been pretty middling performance, 3-3-2 record. We seem to be very good at getting overtime losses. Obviously, need to start turning some of those overtime losses into victories. You can see that Ottinger, our backup goalie, is among the leaders in the league in terms of both goals against average as well as save percentage. But only played 2 games, but has done a good job for us as our backup. Only one real change to the roster. Although Barzal was out injured, we put him on the injured list briefly, but he is back. You can see he played 4 games and then missed our last 4 games, but is back now. But we did pick up Riley Shahan, who was cut by the Devils, went through waivers, and we picked him up. Gives us a little more physicality and, defenseman. Physicality as a defensive forward and someone who brings a little more tenaciousness on the defensive end to help the team. So that's kind of the only change to the roster that we have made over the past several weeks since the season started, but hopefully can start stringing some wins together in the month of November as we head towards Thanksgiving. Well, we made it through another month of the season into December. Played a little better over the past month, 7-5-3 record. Lost our most recent game to San Jose, unfortunately, would have felt a lot better saying that we were 8-4-3, that's for sure. But we are right on the borderline of the playoffs, as we typically are at this point of the season. We do have played a few more games than some of the teams that we're competing with, but if the season ended today, we'd be in the playoffs. Sorokin, having a nice year. You can see the 4-2-4 record is not incredibly stellar, but he is, got the same goals against average as he did last season and has increased his save percentage to .931. So a good season there. A couple injuries for the team recently, unfortunately, that are relatively significant. Brian Dumoulin fractured his shoulder blade. He's been out since the 16th. And then the captain, Anders Lee, PCL injury. So he's out for a couple of months also. So that's obviously not optimal, but it'll give a chance for some other people to step up. Brought Salo back from Bridgeport. You can see he's played really well in 5 games, 3 points, +3. And taking a look at the rookies, Simon Holmstrom has played 12 games, only 2 points. Certainly not a regular part of the lineup. Matthew Savoy has been involved a little more often, 15 games played, 1 goal, 1 assist, -3, but he's getting some all-important experience. And when we are kind of getting our monthly news on how things are going, he certainly is improving with our development report. You can see that over the past month, Savoy improved his determination 1 notch, and all of the young guys that we have on the Islanders roster are improving. Dobson, Holmstrom, Ottinger, Peak, Savoy, and Wallstrom. And it's important. We've invested more in development this year, and you can see we also have a lot of older players who are moving in the wrong direction in terms of their development. So it's going to be important for us to keep the young players developing, give them some playing time, and then at the end of the season, we'll have some difficult decisions to make with some of those older guys. Well, the calendar's flipped to 2024, and we're still kind of just scuffling along, 5-5-2 over the last month. We are now on the outside looking in of the playoff race with only 37 points. Need 40 to be in the playoffs at this point in the Eastern Conference. So have to kind of turn things around. Good news is that we are getting close to kind of being fully back with both Anders Lee and Dumoulin, and then also Andrew Peak, who got injured a little while ago. Close to coming back off the IL, so hopefully if the rest of the team stays healthy, we can start stringing together some wins. That's the hope. Well, we've made it through another 1 month, playing slightly better at 8-6-1, but we are still on the outside of the playoffs looking in with 54 points, just on the borderline, but we also have played fewer games than the teams that are ahead of us in the Metropolitan, as well as some of the teams we're competing with in the Atlantic. So need to start stringing together some wins. The good news was that we had our entire roster back and healthy, but Sean Walker just suffered a sprained acromyoclavicular joint, so he's going to be out for 1 to 2 months. So unfortunately, we'll lose the solid defenseman for the next few months, but we're going to have to make do and start putting some wins together. Just made a minor trade as we try to prepare ourselves to hopefully make a run at the playoffs. We traded the young defenseman Jet Wu, who had been up and down a couple times this year, although he never actually got into a game, in a 5th and a 7th round pick to the Blues for the youngish 27-year-old defenseman Jake Wallman. The Blues have won 2 straight championships. They are a better team. He was on the trade block, but I think that he can definitely help our defense at this point. We have that's the one area of our team where there are some injuries right now. We mentioned Sean Walker earlier, and then also Alex Cotton is on the injury list. He's more of a prospect who we brought up and had a torn plantar fascia tendon in his first game with us, which was unfortunate. But Cotton, I think, certainly has potential to continue to develop into the future. But we'll probably be looking to let one of the other left defenders go, obviously. Salo and Peak are a little more versatile in that they can play both decisions, and then Pelech is Pelech, so he's not going anywhere. So it may be the veteran Dumoulin, who we picked up on waivers earlier this year, and or the veteran Gustafsson, who we let go of. I guess Peak is a possibility also, and we could just send Salo back down to the minors. So a lot of decisions to make, but I think that the addition that we just made of Wallman will be a small step in the right direction in terms of improving our lineup. Well, the season has become a complete disaster since we last checked in and acquired Wallman, who's now injured. But you can see over the last couple of weeks, we lost to Carolina, the Capitals, the Flyers, the Sabres, the Devils, and most recently the Red Wings. So all teams that we are in contention with in the Eastern Conference. 6 straight losses, just brutally ugly. We're now 10 points out of a playoff spot. Certainly not impossible for us to get back into it, but it's been incredibly disappointing to watch this team implode in front of our eyes in the mid to late part of the season for a 3rd consecutive year. But we're not done yet. But the trade deadline is tomorrow, so we have to decide whether it's time to move on from some people. We did get a very mediocre offer for Kyle Palmeri a while back. Did not pull the trigger on it, but if someone's interested in him, it's just going to enrage the fan base even more if we let him go. But 33-year-old player, 34-year-old next year, making $5 million a year. Maybe time to move on from him, and Bailey could be kind of in the final days of his run with us also, although he's extremely popular. So again, if we let either of these guys go, it's just going to enrage the fan base further, but we need to do something to shake things up at this point. Well, we are about to complete a trade. We just decided to shop Joel Eriksson Ek, who we signed a couple of seasons ago and just has never really fit in great. You see minus 14 in his first year, minus 13 his second year. We got a respectable offer, I would say, a 7th rounder from Seattle, but more importantly, David Jaraczek, who is a minor leaguer, 20-year-old, but you can see his decent potential, was a 2nd round pick of them just a couple of seasons ago. So we've got to shake things up. We're going to complete this trade. We'll see if anybody else makes us any interesting offers as we get closer to the end of the season, but actually closer to the trade deadline, which is tomorrow. We did add several additional players to the trade block, probably a little late to get any interesting offers, but we will see. We will see if anyone does tempt us with an interesting offer in the next 24 hours or so. And the positive thing about trading away Eriksson Ek lets us bring up another one of our youthful players, Atu Rate, who was in Bridgeport, as you can see, pretty productive there with 23 goals in 61 games. Another young prospect, probably not quite ready to play on a contending team in the NHL, but we are a borderline contending team at best. So good to open up some more playing time for the young players. Hopefully departure of Eriksson Ek will also allow Savoy to play more often. You can see still just has the 1 goal and 1 assist through 32 games played and only getting about 8 minutes and 19 seconds of ice time. So hopefully getting rid of a more accomplished player at the position that both of these young players are going to play will allow them to get a little more time and experience on the ice at the NHL level. And we do have some interesting trade proposals for a lot of the players that we put on the trade block at the last minute. They could all help us get younger. Brandon Tanev, who actually does have a no-trade clause, so whether or not we'd be able to actually ship him or not is up in question. But another Brandon Bureau from the Sabres offered to us. Not particularly exciting in terms of the quality of player. It would more be if we decide that the 32-year-old Tanev is just someone that we don't want on the roster anymore. You can see we do owe him $3.5 million next year, so if we move on from him, would save a little money, open up a little cash to potentially do something in the off season with. Be an interesting decision for us. Also from Anaheim, 20-year-old defenseman Liam Lesikowski. Again, not a ton of potential. Kyle Palmeri, he's going to be making $5 million next year. He's 33 years old, but he's pretty popular. Long Island native, very popular locally, extremely popular internationally, and still a productive player for us. Definitely don't see that trade happening. New Jersey, though, 20-year-old right wing Chase Stillman for the veteran Riley Sheahan that we had picked up off of waivers. I think Sheahan is a better player right now, but probably not part of our future. Don't know that Stillman will be either, but something to think about there. And then last, the Blues 23-year-old center Damien Giroux for the defenseman Eric Gustafsson, who is near the end of his run with us, most likely. Have him for another year at about $1 million. So nothing, no pound the table trades that we absolutely have to do, but we'll give them some thought before moving on past the trade deadline. Well, we've given it some thought, and the only trade we're going to complete is actually the one with the Devils, who we're chasing technically, but they're pretty far ahead of us. We are going to take the right wing Chase Stillman, 20-year-old, get rid of Riley Sheahan. We just tried talking extension with him, and he's looking for $5 million next year, so clearly not someone who's going to be back with us. So we will go ahead and complete the trade, see if it gives us the capability to bring up some more youth onto the team as we head into the home stretch of the season. And that last trade does allow us to bring up another prospect, Bobby Brink, who was in the NCAA a year ago with Denver. We signed him in the offseason, been playing at Bridgeport. Modestly productive there, but we are going to give the young right wing / center an opportunity to join the team. And so with Brink, Wallstrom, Ratti, and Savoy, have a lot of youth on the team now on our front line, which hopefully some of it will prove to be developed better and productive in the future for us. Well, the month of February is mercifully over. You can see a horrible record of 3-8. We're still on the borderline of contention for the playoffs, but need to really play a lot better over the last quarter of the season. We got 21 games left. Probably need to win, I'd say probably about 15 of those games to have any chance of getting into the playoffs. So it's going to be a big struggle for a team that's been as mediocre and inconsistent as these Islanders have been. Team chemistry is fine. Everyone is getting along great. We're just playing horrible hockey. We've gotten ourselves a little bit back into the playoff race, but the fans are not happy with us. Fortunately, we didn't make any trades that really angered them further, but it's been a struggle with the Islanders. I thought it would be not easy, but I thought we'd be more competitive than we have been heading into our, the finish of our third full season as general manager. So we've still got time to turn this around, but it's definitely been a struggle. Well, another month in the books. We're to April 2nd, and Scott Malkin, our owner, thinks the season is a great success so far, and the team is in outstanding shape. But we've gone 7-8 over the last month, and he's concerned about our work as a GM, my work as a GM. So, once again, very mixed messages from ownership as far as how this is going, but I'm not happy with it. Only 5 games left in the season. Technically, if we win all 5 and a lot of other stuff happens, we have a chance. We aren't mathematically eliminated yet, but you can see, the Rangers and the Devils, 2 of the teams that we're chasing, 7 and 10 points ahead of us with 2 games in hand. Actually, the Devils we won't catch clearly, but the Rangers would be extremely difficult to catch. Same thing, with the Sabres, Maple Leafs, some of the other teams on the edge of the playoffs from the Atlantic Division. We need to be perfect, and we need a lot of help. So we will see how the rest of the season goes. We'll go game by game to let my pain just be lived out in real time. Simmed ahead a couple of days to our next game, which is against the Canadiens, and you can see the line for the playoffs is 83 points right now. If we win 5 in a row, we only get to 84. So we are nearing the end of the line, unfortunately. See how this game goes against Montreal, and we lost. So that is going to be all she wrote. There's no way we can get into the playoffs now. So we are done. We will play out the string over these last 4 games of the season and see how things stack up. Well, the season is over. We are out of the playoffs. You can see 35 and 39 with 8 overtime losses, just 78 points. Looking at the wild card standings, we were out of the playoffs by 13 points. So not a pretty season. We made progress last year, and we've gone in the wrong direction this year. So that is pretty depressing. You can see first year real difficult with 69 points. We improved to 88 points last year. We're right on the verge of the playoffs. And we're somewhere in between this year now. Exactly in between. 31 wins, 39 wins, and now 35 wins. So the Islanders are certainly not a historic juggernaut, at least not over the last 4 decades, but would like to be playing better than we have been, and would like to have an opportunity to hopefully make the playoffs one of these years before we get fired. So we will start getting ready for the off season, see how the Stanley Cup playoffs go, and then do a quick review of the roster. Well, we've made it to June, and your 23-24 Stanley Cup champions are the Edmonton Oilers. Their first championship in 34 years. So congratulations to the Oilers on that. Taking a look at where we stand, obviously was another difficult season. Looking at our goalies, Ottinger did fine as a backup, but the issue, and I've seen this in the game, a lot of times the coaches turn the guy that I think should be the backup into the starter, and the guy who should be the starter into the backup, and I'm letting the coaches make their own decisions. But Ottinger played 56 games for us and did fine with a .255 goals against and a .922 save percentage. But Sorokin played a lot less, only 29 games, and you can see his performance did regress compared to the previous season, although he still had a winning record excluding the overtime losses. We'll take a look at the highlights of a few key players before jumping in and looking at all the stats. But Pelech, solid as usual, only -1 on a team that struggled as much as we did, is a pretty solid season. Excuse me. Pulock, on the other hand, -21. Still someone that we should be building around, but certainly not a great year for him. Sean Walker, we're going to have a decision to make on whether to re-up him or not. He was injured off and on, but still had a respectable season. And then Noah Dobson, one of the young defensemen that we are trying to build around, similar to Pullock. Really not a great plus-minus for the season. Moving on to the forwards, Anders Lee, the captain, was injured a lot, as you know. Not incredibly productive. $7 million a year for the next 2 seasons after this. Could be nearing the end of his time with the team. Beauvillier, a down season for him. He is still someone that we have signed to an extension and will be building around for the future, but certainly not a great year. Barzal did miss those 4 games early in the season, but had another really good season for us. 36 goals, 30 assists. The plus-minus of -20. As we've seen, a lot of the key players on our team were in that area. We just were not a very good team, and we gave up a lot of goals. And then Bailey, who is assistant captain in the final year of his contract, making $5 million a year. Going to be very unpopular if we let him go. Holmstrom, one of the rookies, played 47 games for us, just 11 points, but was out on the ice for over 11 minutes a game while he was there, so someone to potentially build around. Bobby Brink came up at the end of the season and was actually pretty productive, 14 points in 22 games with a +2 for this team. I think he certainly has potential. Oliver Wallstrom, somewhat better season than last year, at least on the scoring line, with 19 goals and 32 assists. Again, plus-minus. You're going to have a lot of guys in the negatives when you lose as many games as the Islanders did. Looking at a couple of the other rookies, Atu Rattay, who came up, again, very productive. So got some of these young guys some playing time after we cleared out a couple of older players ahead of the trade deadline. 15 points in 20 games. And a +10, so he is certainly showing that he is going to be a hopefully large part of our future. And then last but not least, Matthew Savoy, the youngster, 20 years old. You can see only 5 points in 49 games. He was playing only barely 8 minutes a game at the trade deadline, so we did get to see him get him some more playing time. Got the year's average up to close to 10 minutes a game. Obviously was not a critical part of the team, but he developed okay during the year, was consistently getting better. Looking at the scouting report, I think he can still be in a Matthew Barzal type of player when all is said and done. And Atu Rati, and I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, going to be a counterpart of his on the team, hopefully a long time to come with similar playing styles. So looking at our stats for the season, you can see Barzal, easily led the team in goals, was the only person with 20-plus goals. Obviously, that lack of scoring kind of illustrates the problem for the Islanders in pretty stark terms. Also was second on the team in assists behind only Wallstrom, so 66 points. And then Wallstrom was the only player besides him over 50. Sam Steele tied for third with Beauvillier in scoring with just 35 points. Really need to do something to get this offense going better next season. Not sure exactly what that's going to be, but we are going to have to make some changes to increase the productivity of the offense because we're just not scoring very many goals. And to just illustrate that point, you can see just 198 goals scored by the Islanders over this past season. The only team in hockey that didn't reach the 200-goal plateau. So we were the lowest scoring team in hockey, and when you don't score goals, it's going to be difficult. We were minus 41 goal differential, even though the 239 goals that we did allow should have been enough to keep us competitive. Also not a very good team on the road. got a lot of changes that we need to make. We'll see how this offseason goes as we get closer to it. We are near the beginning of the official offseason on July 1st. Made a couple of minor moves. Signed young center Reese Newkirk to a 3-year extension. I spent the last 2 years in Bridgeport, but certainly could have a role on the big club going forward. And then we also signed Sean Walker. Unclear if we'll want to eventually trade him this offseason, but as a 29-year-old solid defenseman, think he still probably has some value, so wanted to get him signed to a contract of about $3.3 million a year. So those were the two additions. Looking at the rest of the upcoming free agents, the big move that will be controversial is not signing Bailey to an extension, but he's 34 years old, will be 35 by the opening tip-off, or opening face-off. We're playing hockey, not basketball. When he leaves, if he leaves, it's going to be a big blow to the team. I guess our hope is kind of that he retires this off-season, so we don't take the hit for him signing with somebody else. But it is what it is at this point. We are headed into the off-season. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully we'll be able to make some moves in the off-season that get this team moving in a more constructive direction and get the Islanders back into the playoffs. Have a great day.